When we see something unusual in the sky, ominous figures, flames, or red flashes, we involuntarily remember that exactly such things were described in ancient prophecies about the end of the world. Today's compilation of videos is mind-blowing. People are filming more and more footage like this in different corners of the planet, and it is very unsettling. What awaits us? Residents of the city could not believe their eyes. A bright blue beam that suddenly cut through the sky was clearly visible in broad daylight. It glowed so intensely that it lit up everything around. There was no thunder or any source of light that could transmit this beam. There were no events taking place nearby, and there was no military base. Witnesses could not explain its appearance in any way. Although the video attracted the attention of local residents and quickly spread across the internet, an answer to the question was never found. Where did this beam in the sky come from? Maybe you know? In December 2024, residents of the city of Tulsa in the state of Oklahoma noticed how the sky began to send inexplicable signals. Bright blue squares appeared in cirrus clouds, forming a perfectly even pattern. The pattern appeared and remained almost every 20 seconds. It was clear and stable. The person who filmed this video noted that this whole shape looked more artificial than natural. But it did not resemble familiar light effects. There were no drones in the sky, and there was also no information about any show or advertising campaigns. Observers described this phenomenon as some kind of structure above the sky that manifested by itself, without a visible source from which it could be coming. This observation left behind an unsettling feeling that the sky may not be as empty as it seems to us. In the remote wilderness of northern Canada, watching the quiet night sky suddenly stopped being romantic. A group of people became witnesses to atypical events. They saw how a white-blue spiral slowly formed in the sky, expanding outward. The spiral formed a perfect pattern and glowed along the edges, while its center was dark and empty. It resembled the northern lights, but it did not flare up and did not shimmer. At the same time, the air around seemed heavy, almost compressed, as if the entire environment had abruptly changed. Later, officials pointed to the possible presence of rocket fuel in the air, but those who observed the phenomenon in person found this explanation unconvincing. In addition, similar spiral formations were recorded in other parts of the world, but none of them has yet received an official explanation. The author of this video noticed something unusual while standing on a bridge above a busy road. Some indistinct creature or object was moving across the sky. He immediately started filming, but he himself could not determine what was in front of him. What appeared on camera did not look like an airplane or a balloon. A dark silhouette of a strange shape moved slowly, almost gliding in the air. It had tentacles like an octopus, but it is hard to determine for sure whether it was a creature or an object. One thing is obvious. The object looked quite ominous, and to this day, no one has been able to give it any kind of definition. I do not think that some unclean force could so calmly cruise through the sky in broad daylight. But who knows what can be happening if the world is on the brink of collapse? Honestly, I do not know how to describe this mysterious formation, and the residents of the region in China where it appeared did not know either. A clump that looked like a mass of black fog hung over mountainous terrain, and anxious birds flew around it. Is it not true? It does not look like a natural phenomenon or a migration of large flocks. What is even stranger? This clump stayed in the very same place for quite a long time before disappearing without a trace. In fact, it resembles some kind of ancient sorcery, but for obvious reasons, it is hard to believe that, even while watching the video. Maybe we will try together to find a scientific explanation, or at least disprove its authenticity. In the Californian town of Victorville, people went out into the street after hearing a loud noise. It seemed as if a dump truck had thundered across the sky. This sound was not like thunder. It rather seemed mechanical, as if iron machines or ships were grinding overhead. People admitted that the same alarming sound woke all of them up. The police reported that there was neither a car crash nor construction work in this area. But what worried people most was that the source of the sound, by their feeling, was above and not around them. Soon, similar testimonies appeared from other states. All of them described the same character of the noise. Religious leaders claimed that these were not random events and pointed to ancient prophecies, asserting, if the sky breaks its silence, important changes will soon come. The fact that the source of the recording was never found only complicated the task. During a night thunderstorm in Mexico, the author of this video was filming lightning strikes when he noticed something picturesque in the dark clouds. A picture worthy of filming arose there by itself. It was clearly outlined, and the longer the filming lasted, the clearer the image became. Everyone who later watched the recording was amazed at how accurately the heavenly lights and clouds reproduced a devilish eye and an angry grimace directed at the earth. Experts called this pareidolia, a phenomenon of the psyche, when our mind itself finds images and picks out patterns where there are none. And while the storm continued, this frightening face hung in the sky, as if the wind could not scatter it. If we put skepticism aside for a moment, then we can turn to ancient texts. They often mention that the sky sends us alarming signs in troubled times. On the Chantang River in the Chinese province of Zhejiang, a unique wave appears. If you watch it during the period of the autumn full moon, it may seem that the water flows unnaturally. The wave forms atypical curls that shimmer in the sun's rays like fish scales. The tidal bore here is considered one of the largest in the world and is called the Silver Dragon. But the most remarkable thing is not even that. There is also a round formation there, similar to a giant eye watching the shore. People call it the Dragon's Eye. Precisely because of this place, the water behaves differently. Scientists explain the phenomenon by the special structure of the terrain when the tide of a large mass of water entering from the East China Sea is forced to fit into the narrow funnel of the river mouth. In some regions of Mexico, residents trembled with horror when a glowing, fiery silhouette suddenly appeared high in the sky. Before it formed, the area was shrouded in loud, echoing sounds that spread like dull explosions. Someone compared these sounds to trumpets. The ground vibrated while the strange sound spread through the surroundings. When the fiery circle appeared, it looked like a ring suspended in the air. It was visible well enough. Many took out their phones and began filming the unusual phenomenon. And by the way, this was not the only report of such sounds. Earlier in California, something similar had already happened. In this video, we also see an incomprehensible circle engulfed in flame. It appeared in the sunset sky. It was not lightning, and the circle did not go out along with the setting sun, but simply stayed hanging, scorching the clouds. Its edges flickered as if something was breaking through from the other side. This really looks strange. People on the internet tried to explain it as an atmospheric phenomenon. Others claimed that a mystical sign appeared in the sky. Whatever it was, it is obvious that this ring does not look at all like the effects that nature usually creates. A tourist explored the beauty of the Swiss Alps. He was filming stunning mountain views when he saw a huge golden ring hovering over the horizon. Unlike ordinary clouds or sunset light, the ring glowed evenly and did not move with the wind. On the contrary, it created the impression of a stable construction suspended in the sky. The tourist filmed this on video, noting how unnatural this event looked. Some online commenters called it the Swiss portal. Most viewers perceived the circle as something otherworldly or alien. There were also attempts to chalk what was happening up to a rare atmospheric phenomenon. But the witness insisted that the wheel looked like something controlled, as if behind this heavenly installation there was something or someone. A passenger on this flight became an observer of a large fire from the airplane window. He was high above the city and could clearly see the entire blazing panorama. Of course, the man took advantage of the opportunity to film such a large-scale spectacle. But suddenly, Amid the curtain of fire and smoke, he saw something dark appear in the frame. A huge figure moved through the smoke, and it seemed to hover in the flames. Its giant wings opened and flapped. Several times the figure crossed the glowing background. It was impossible not to notice it, and then it suddenly disappeared into the darkness below. The passenger was in shock. Perhaps he did not believe his eyes, but there were other witnesses with him on the flight. In the end, we have this video. How would you comment on the black shadow? A man was looking out of the window of his apartment at the evening panorama of the city, when suddenly a bright glow in the sky attracted his attention. It immediately seemed unusual to him. Several bright spheres hovered high in the night sky, emitting a steady white glow. The lights did not blink like airplanes and did not flare, and at the same time they made no sound. While the man continued recording, the spheres began to move together, smoothly and in a coordinated way, drifting through the clouds along the same trajectory. Their movements seemed purposeful, not random, so he dismissed the thought of natural phenomena. There was clearly something else here, do you not think? Above Manchester Airport, one of the busiest air harbors in the United Kingdom, a black sphere appeared that behaved in a special way. Pilots are trained to recognize such phenomena, and they described it as an opaque, dark ball that appeared straight out of the clouds. It made no sounds, left no exhaust trail, it had no wings, and there were also no visible systems nearby to keep it in the air. The object descended as if guided by an air traffic controller and lowered not far from the runway, as if it knew exactly where it was heading. However, as we can be convinced from this video and the testimony of witnesses, even military aircraft that were nearby could not catch up with the speed of its movement. So what was it? In North Carolina, observers described glowing twin spheres. They silently glided across the night sky. One was blue and the other was red. At first, people thought these were airplane lights, but then the spheres began moving toward each other, until at one moment they merged into one and completely disappeared. Everything happened in complete silence. As you understand, no one left comments, and this silent mystery only intensified the feeling of unreality of what was happening. But you and I can comment on what we saw. All hypotheses have the right to be heard. Unidentified objects were filmed in the sky over Shanghai. In the video, we observe how a huge glowing object silently hangs over the city, leaving a white light trail along the line of the horizon, while 3 smaller lights move behind it along the line of a clear circle. The way this object behaves rather demonstrates control than random movement. However, officials denied information about the activity of drones or other aircraft in this area. Curiously, a few days later, similar footage appeared from the city of Perth in Australia. The distance between these two places is quite large, so it is hard to ignore the similarity of the two observations. If these objects were not created by humans, then an unsettling question arises. What is capable of appearing and flying in the sky over large cities without warning? In one of the cities in China, residents dropped all their affairs and hurried to film numerous glowing spheres on video. They appeared in a large cluster in the night sky, right above their heads. The light dazzled, and the movement stunned observers. Just imagine that a group of celestial objects is purposefully and silently moving straight at you. They did not scatter chaotically, but shifted altogether, keeping distance. Observers described this moment rather as a synchronized event than a chaotic fall. No one had a feeling of celebration. Rather, the observation caused bewilderment and anxiety. What is interesting is that such objects continue to appear and are recorded in different parts of the world, and each time they leave the same question. What exactly is moving above us, and why is the media not talking about it? The author of this video was simply filming the night sky when he suddenly saw a powerful stream of light. At first, it slowly pulsed, then became brighter, leaving behind the feeling of something unnatural. After a few seconds, a silhouette in the shape of a disc appeared, and suddenly the light inside it began moving across the sky much faster than any drone. Its movement was definitely a controlled flight. not free fall, but at the same time it was not accompanied by sounds or blinking lights like airplanes have. Later, experts tried to explain the speed and shape of this phenomenon. At that moment, observers felt that in front of them was not just a flying object, but rather some kind of maneuvers. It appeared, watched something, and then disappeared from view. All we can do is guess what it was. Residents of a small town froze in place when the evening sky suddenly flooded with red light. The glow spread across the clouds. It flared up and faded, flickering in short impulses. This red flicker did not resemble lightning or a sunset. Its frequency seemed controlled, as if the sky was active by itself. Many stood outside, silently watching what they could not explain. If we recall prophecies, then a red sky promises us nothing good. They spoke of a final warning about the end of the world. Whatever the cause of this light was, it was hardly an accident. At the very least, you and I can claim that this light definitely did not come from fireworks or a thunderstorm. When the airplane was at cruising altitude, a passenger looked out the window and saw something strange. Beneath him was a dense layer of clouds of a deep orange, even almost red color. They resembled molten lava and spread across the entire sky. This was not an ordinary sunrise, and not a reflection of sunset rays. The light seemed steady, intense, and unnatural. The man began filming, and then the clouds began to look even more like the glow of a fire that was raging everywhere on the ground. Of course, such a sight could not help but be alarming. After the flight ended, the author of the video shared it online. The clip quickly spread and viewers called it "Fire in the Sky." There were those who linked these clouds to ancient warnings, when harbingers of global upheavals were supposed to be red skies. Be that as it may, when you see something like that from a height of 11,000 meters, it becomes clear: the sky is no longer predictable. In Sudan, people went outside and saw a sky that completely stopped being familiar. It turned a sharp orange color, as if the sun had gone out, and a strong wind raged everywhere. Movement in the streets stopped. Neighbors gathered together, not understanding what was happening. Many felt fear that was much stronger than curiosity. Some also linked this moment to religious warnings about signs in the sky, and claimed that this was not a random change in the weather. But what worried people most was how suddenly it happened. Driving at night past the Egyptian pyramids, a man noticed glowing objects behind the ancient structures. 4 bright spheres slowly and synchronously rose upward, completely blocking the space. They illuminated everything that was below. At some moment, the spheres aligned, then merged into a pair resembling 2 glowing eyes. They seemed to watch everything from above. The video became popular online, but there are still no answers as to what the mysterious lights really were. In California, a man went outside under a clear sky, when suddenly a strange smoke curtain formed right above him. The cloud appeared instantly, without wind and without any sounds of an approaching storm. The cloud remained in place, dense and unnatural. Then he started recording and zoomed in, trying to understand what he was seeing. Suddenly, inside the smoke, through small holes, bright points began to shine through, resembling lights. It was clear that there were no airplanes or satellites in the sky, so no one could find any explanation. Before anything could become clear for us, the recording ended. Maybe you have encountered something similar and can comment on this lonely cloud? On the 10th of December 2024, a helicopter pilot flying over Colorado captured something inexplicable. Fiery flashes were falling from the sky to the ground. But they behaved not like meteors, but were like glowing traces that moved evenly and synchronously, as if they were being controlled. The pilot's video quickly spread across the internet, giving rise to theories that this might not be a natural phenomenon at all, but something entering our atmosphere. An invasion, what else can you call it? This video was recorded in the evening on the 7th of January, 2025, in the Chinese province of Hebei. people noticed a bright object quickly sliding across the sky. A large glowing sphere silently hovered over the city, moving above the houses. Residents rushed outside to film it. The luminous sphere clearly moved purposefully. It was not a falling celestial body like a meteorite. In Mexico City late at night, witnesses captured an astonishing event on camera. They noticed a giant triangular object in the sky, hovering high above the ground. On its body, in a strange rhythmic order, bright lights flickered. It seemed like silent signals. The video recording turned out clear and almost ideal, so you can rule out manipulation with effects or an optical illusion. There was clearly something else there. Naturally, the triangle in the sky left everyone with more questions than answers. In Indiana, one of the most incredible events ever captured on camera happened. You have definitely never seen anything like this anywhere. Imagine that the sky above you began to flicker like a broken screen. Colors would appear and disappear. They blinked like short flashes of something malfunctioning. There was no wind, no sound, only this chaotic glow overhead. Then, the light dimmed and darkness fell. That silence brought no relief. It hung heavily in the air, leaving everyone with the same feeling, as if something in the world had gone wrong. Galilee is a historical region in the north of Israel, on the border with Lebanon, and here any mystical incident is linked to ancient beliefs and epic events of the past. So, witnesses of the phenomenon recorded how a giant pillar of glowing clouds rose straight out of the ground and pressed into the sky. It contained no smoke and was not formed by thunderstorm clouds. On the contrary, its shape looked perfectly beautiful, and even despite a strong wind, it remained unchanged. Struck by the spectacle, people filmed what was happening on video, not understanding what was going on. Let us add again that, in this area, everything acquired a much greater meaning than simply amazing weather cataclysms. Rather, the phenomenon was perceived as a signal, as if for a moment something connected the earth underfoot with the sky above. Was it a reason to think about the eternal? Many wonders and mysterious phenomena have been observed in the sky, but perhaps this is one of a kind. More than 10 years ago in Canada, in the picturesque city of Grand Falls, a local resident saw a storm cloud that looked like a human face. Eyes, ears, nose, and mouth were clearly distinguishable. Probably everyone would point to this resemblance. Why did the cloud take such an unusual form? We have two explanations. Either it is a glitch in the matrix, or we ourselves are inclined to draw and think up what we want. Here is another proof that our imagination does its job well. A shop owner was standing outside in front of the entrance and suddenly noticed a cloud that also stood out among the others. At sunset, it was colored a rich orange, when suddenly it took the clear shape of a roaring lion, incredibly similar to a real one. Witnesses felt as if the very atmosphere around them had changed. There was something special in this vision. Ordinary clouds would lose their shape after a few seconds, but this did not stretch out and did not fall apart. It stayed in the sky for several minutes, while people nearby stopped with their heads raised to get a better look at it. The clarity and plausibility of the image puzzled many who saw it later on the footage. Especially concerned were those who are familiar with ancient symbolism associated with lions in the sky. The lion is a sign of fiery energy, greatness, and triumph, reminding of victory over the monster and the establishment of order. And what do you say? Is this again our consciousness, drawing images into the familiar and giving them secret meaning? We also observe cloud phenomena of gods. Where would they come from if not from the heavens? Once, on a clear day, witnesses captured a strange form of clouds in the sky. Above them, suspended in the sky, a huge figure appeared, woven from glowing mist. It seemed that it was moving slowly, but purposefully. It did not drift like clouds, but seemed to have its own direction. Its outlines became clearer and clearer, and this made observers shudder. Someone saw a spiritual sign in the figure. Agree, given what is happening in the world, such encounters are becoming harder and harder to write off as optical illusions or hoaxes. Of course, our consciousness tends to supplement familiar images, but you will not deny that this figure is not just a cloud. It really resembles the well-known silhouette of Christ. At a seaside resort in Israel, a man was filming the coastline, and suddenly from afar, noticed a person sitting alone on the sand. The figure looked ordinary, but when he zoomed in, its appearance struck him to the depths of his soul. The very posture and look of that person strongly resembled traditional images of Jesus Christ. It was surprising, but the video that appeared later from another source became a more alarming signal. In the same region, during a spiritual gathering, witnesses filmed an incredible phenomenon: a glowing figure that moved above the water as if walking on it. Is it not too many coincidences? It was not smoke and not fog, but a silhouette that silently floated over the place where the sacred ceremony was being held, and it also resembled an image of Christ. Everyone sees their own God, even in clouds. In the Indian city of Tirupati, a driver, raising his eyes to the horizon, noticed something unusual. The clouds above the city formed a clear silhouette of the Hindu deity Vishnu. The figure in the sky remained completely motionless. Sitting in a contemplative pose, it seemed to be watching what was happening below. People who happened to be nearby stopped in bewilderment, not knowing whether it was an optical illusion or a natural cloud formation that had taken a bizarre shape. But, as you yourself can see, the shape of these clouds was not like the others. Their clarity and correspondence to the image made many think that this is a phenomenon of a spiritual nature, an important sign that appeared at the right moment in the right place. Miracles like the heavenly ones can also be found on Earth. An explorer, entering a cave far from civilization, expected to see darkness and silence. But instead, deep inside the corridor, he found a motionless seated figure surrounded by a bright white light. By the silhouette, the figure resembled a human, but an inexplicably bright light emanated from it, which did not flicker and did not reflect off the walls like from a flashlight, but seemed to come directly from the figure itself. The person filming whispered in shock, "I am not sure whether I have witnessed some spiritual moment or something like that." Perhaps he discovered for us what no one should ever have seen. Imagine what it is like to make such a discovery in a place untouched by technology. This story begins with a solitary green light quietly hanging in the night sky. It does not blink and does not move away, it just shines. But then a second light slowly appears from it. It moves away as if it has its own intentions. Witnesses desperately try to film this event and keep both lights in the frame. For several minutes, both objects silently hover above their heads before completely disappearing. Need we say that observers were momentarily struck speechless? And how would you perceive something like that if you were there? Where green lights flicker, there may well be little green men. During a solitary walk through the forest, a woman suddenly stopped by a large fallen tree. Her glad was caught by movement deep inside a crevice. She took out her phone and began filming. A tiny figure was looking at her from a hollow. A long, narrow head and glowing eyes gave it an unnatural appearance. No known animal could look and behave like that. The creature also cautiously peered out from the depths, not trying to hide or run away. It seems it behaved quite meaningfully, as if it possessed intelligence. The woman posted the video on the internet to find authors of similar stories. Who knows? Maybe some creatures live in forests so close to our homes, and we do not even suspect it. Not all visions can be written off as aliens. The world is full of fairy tale characters that we created ourselves. During a family trip to the Scottish Highlands, travelers met a small ball of fur on the road. Naturally, this sight made them stop and immediately start filming. When the video was published on the internet, viewers noticed that it matches the description of the legendary wild haggis. These are fictional creatures allegedly living in the mountains of Scotland. As they say, their front and back legs are different lengths, which allows them to easily climb the hilly terrain. But no one had ever encountered them so close as to capture them on camera. Here is an example of how harmless-looking creatures can make people doubt reality. Have you had a case when you did not believe your own eyes? Share with us in the comments. Sometimes ordinary animals behave as if they want to tell us something. A family was vacationing in a mountainous area, and now we will watch what the surveillance camera recorded. Apparently, it is installed here not by accident, because of uninvited visitors to the resort. No one expected that in broad daylight, a wild animal, similar to a very tall fox or a red wolf, would calmly climb the stairs to the house. Without haste or panic, the beast rushed to the leftovers of food that, for some reason, were left on a piece of cardboard right at the entrance. The wolf examined the food and ate right on the spot, and then calmly left. Have you ever seen a wolf with such long legs? And indeed, this is an unusual creature, the maned wolf, or gura. It has a narrow, long muzzle and a bright red coloration like a fox, but at the same time, very long, graceful legs, which gives it a resemblance to a hunting dog. No wonder an animal with a sharp sense of smell caught the treat from a distance. And since it knows the way, it is not afraid to come here. Perhaps this was not the first visit. That is how a striking appearance helps get bonuses. No one even thought of chasing the red wolf away. Everyone wanted to get a look at it. Well, and of course, where there is a wolf, legends about a werewolf will definitely be remembered. Late in the evening on the quiet streets of the Argentine city of Santa Fe, residents noticed a strange creature. For several weeks, rumors had already been circulating around the area about it, until a video appeared that gives you chills. In these frames ahead, you can see a dark figure that crouched low under the trees. It moved as if it was hunting. Its contours were curved, but it can be said unmistakably that the figure looked humanoid. Since pets periodically began to disappear in this area, some linked the appearance of the creepy creature to the mythical vampire chupacabra, and someone claimed that it was a werewolf. And finally, a story about a strange sign at sea. Ghost ships exist and intersect with our reality with some goals of their own. Early in the morning at the Mukilteo Company ferry terminal in Washington, operators noticed that some object blocked access to the dock. In theory, no one should have been there. What was their surprise when the outline of a fishing vessel suddenly emerged from the darkness? Later, it was identified under the name Mary B, and it moored by itself. There were no lights on the vessel. The engine did not make noise. The ferry Tokai was forced to stop because the ghost vessel spontaneously moved toward it. In the video, you can understand that it is heading to the pier purposefully, as if it is controlled by something invisible. Will you be surprised by the news that they found no one on board? The sight of a large vessel that came so close to shore on its own made many think how long it had been drifting in the open sea and what brought it to the dock. Perhaps much in this story could have gone unnoticed. Write in the comments which moment frightened or amazed you the most, and subscribe to Top Facts for the most incredible compilations of facts and videos from all over the internet. Thank you for watching, and right now, click on one of our previous episodes.